Okay, the purpose of this video is to assist you when taking your Microsoft Office Specialist exam with Certiport in terms of how to sign in and actually begin the exam. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come to this screen and you're going to have to sign in with your credentials. You should have created an account with Certiport, or maybe someone created an account for you. It just kind of depends upon what school you're at. But I'm going to sign in with my credentials. And when you successfully sign in, now because I'm the administrator of my school, I see a little bit different screen than what you would normally see. I actually have to click this button right here that says launch an exam. Now, you should be taken straight to this screen right here, and in the upper right hand corner you would see your name. And it's going to ask you these two questions. Do you have an exam group ID today? That is in all likelihood no, so you would leave that alone. And then do you have a voucher to use for payment? That would definitely be no. So you leave these two at no, and then you click next. And then the next part is extremely important. It's going to ask you to select the exam you're going to take. Now, it does list all of the exams here, but probably the best thing for you to do is to come up here into the exam field where it says find an exam. And then if you're taking an Excel exam, just to type in Excel. And then you're going to see the Excel exams that are installed on the computer. And you may be doing in all likelihood, you are going to be doing either this exam right here, the Excel 2019, which is the associate exam. This would be the one that you would probably take at the end of quarter one and quarter three. Or if you're doing the Excel exam, the expert exam, this is the one you would be taking at the end in all likelihood at quarter two and quarter four. And then you also may be doing the Word exam or the PowerPoint exam. You could type the name of those exams up here and then just make sure you select the correct exam. So for this example, I'm going to assume that we're doing the Excel Associate exam, which would be this one right here. Make sure you take note, this exam right here has the word expert in it. So if you're doing this in quarter one or quarter three, you don't want to do this one just yet because you probably are not prepared for it at this time. Make sure you click that. Now, you may also see this. This is very important as well. It tells you here that the particular computer that I'm on is compatible with two different versions of the exam. In all likelihood, this is the exam that you're preparing for to take, which is the Office 2019. You could possibly be taking the Office 2016 version of the exam, which is highly unlikely. So make sure that you click on the appropriate exam version and then click next. And then you're going to have to go through this non-disclosure agreement, and you're supposed to read all of this good stuff. And I'm not quite sure how much time that you may or may not spend on this, but this is basically just, again, this is all the legal stuff that they have to have you do. So when you're done with all of that, click Yes, I accept, and then click Next. Now, the next thing that you're going to have to do is verify that this information is correct. Now, this is for your proctor. Your proctor at this point, whoever is administering your exam, has to look at this and make sure that your name matches up here to the correct exam that you're taking. So again, if you are a proctor watching this, please make sure that you verify that the student is taking the correct exam. And then the proctor, you would need to sign in down here with your credentials. Now, I cannot actually sign in. I cannot go past this because as of right now, this is assuming that I want to proctor my own exam, which was not permitted. So I cannot put in my information and click Unlock Exam. So what I want to do here is pause the video, switch screens, and we'll come back and finish this tutorial. Okay, so now once your proctor gets signed in, I believe the next screen you're going to see is going to be one that basically runs a check on your computer and verifies that it is set up and capable of correctly administering the exam. And that should give you, if it is set up correctly, you would click the next button. And then the next screen that you're going to see is you're going to see a window that's going to pop up, and it's going to tell you about the Microsoft Office World Championship. There actually is a contest, if you will, for this, where in years past, people who take the exam and do really well would possibly get to go to places like Orlando or Dallas or whatnot and basically have a competition for Microsoft Office skills. And if you want to be considered for that, there's going to be a checkbox that you would click. It's going to say, yes, please enter me into the Certiport competition. I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but then you would click that if you wanted to be considered. If you don't want to be considered, you would just leave that unchecked. Then you would click next. Now, when you click next, the next thing that you're going to see is going to be it's going to start giving you the exam, and you're going to go to a tutorial. And Certiport has put this on their website. And I want to scroll down. They've put it in PDF format. Other versions of the exam, they actually put the tutorial pretty much as you would see it on the exam on their website, but they haven't done so yet. So here's the PDF version. So I'm explaining to you this and give you some pointers for taking your exam. First of all, whatever exam you're taking, whether it be Excel, Word, PowerPoint, whatever exam, you're going to see that program up top of the screen. Now, for this tutorial, they use Excel, but just know if you're doing the Word exam, you would see Word up at the top of the screen. And then you're going to see a line that goes all the way across, and then below that, you're going to see the exam panel. Now, on the exam panel, the reason I pointed out this bar right here is that you could drag either of these up or down to make them bigger so that you could see more of them as you're taking your exam. So now let me go over the different parts of the exam window and make sure you understand how to use it. First of all, right here, you'll have your timer, which will count down from 50 minutes to complete your exam. The next thing that you'll have is a go-to summary. This will show you a list of all of the tasks that are on the exam, and it will show whether or not you have marked something as complete or marked for review. My advice to students is, as you take the exam, that if you do something and you know you've done it correct, that you would click Mark Complete. It would put a check mark on the task number. And then if you mark something for review, you're going to see a red flag, kind of like what you can see right here. And then you would be able to know that at the end of the exam that you would want to come back and spend some more time on that. Here you're going to see your project name and number, and my advice to you is when you take this into consideration with your timer, you don't want to spend too much time taking the on one particular task. My advice to students is generally don't spend more than about 45 seconds on a task. If it's something that you just cannot figure out, my advice is to come down here and click Mark for Review and come back to it later on. Okay. The Restart Project button, honestly, I would avoid using this. I would avoid this like COVID-19. And don't use it because it erases everything for the entire project, and you lose that time and you don't get that time back. When you are done with all of the tasks on a project, you would click the Submit Project button that you see here, and then you would be able to go back and it would automatically launch the next project. Now, when you do this on the 7th project, it's going to take you straight to your summary that's going to show you a list of all of the tasks that you need to complete on the exam and show you how you have marked them, whether you've marked them as complete or marked for review. Now, I didn't say anything about mark for feedback down here because, quite frankly, I have never found any real use for that particular button. And of course, as you're actually taking the exam, you can either go on a task by clicking one of these task buttons, or you can move back and forth one at a time and go to a task. And all of these tasks are supposed to be independent of each other, meaning that task number 1 wouldn't have anything to do with task number 2 being done correctly. It's supposed to be that way, but I mean, as of right now, that's the way it is. So unless they, at some point in the future, they change that, these tasks are all independent of each other. Now, some other parts right here, this button right here that you see with the, it looks like a square and the arrow pointing down. If you scroll down here, that gives you an example, tells you what this does. That minimizes the exam panel to provide more space for the project file. And like I mentioned earlier, you could also drag those windows up or down. And then the button that's next to it, it restores the project file and the exam panel to the default configuration. So if this were your default configuration right here, clicking this button right here at the far right end of the blue bar here would make these two windows go back to their original size and position. And then this button right here with the settings wheel, again, that is your settings feature. And if you were to click on that, that gives you access to a calculator, which could help you, especially on an Excel exam, a help file pertaining to the actual taking of the exam, not help pertaining to your exam itself, but also it will give you commands for changing magnification on the exam panel. So if you wanted to zoom in to get a closer look at something, and they tell you here Control plus and Control minus and Control 0 are what those are. And pretty much everything else in terms of the actual exam window, the exam control panel, is the, we've already discussed it. So I do want to go over the exam task with you as well. And they will tell you that on the exam, depending upon the exam that you're taking, you're going to have between 5 and 8 projects. If you're taking an expert level exam, those tasks are going to be harder. So on those, you're going to have probably fewer projects. And on each of these, you're going to be asked to perform anywhere between 1 and 7 tasks. So again, depending upon which exam you're taking will determine how many of each that you get. Now, they tell you that on the exam panel, when you see the tasks that you must perform, it uses the following formatting conventions. So first of all, file names, folder names, or setting names are just typed as normal text. And it looks like these are in bold, so those will be bolded. So if it's the name of a file or a folder or a setting name, that will be in bold. If you see something that's inside of quotation marks, that is text that is already inside the file. You need to quickly find that text because you're probably going to format that text, or you're going to do something that's near that text. And then a change to the exam that's pretty useful. If you see text that is underlined and inside of quotation marks, that is text that you're going to have to add somewhere to the document. And they have changed it so that if you click on text that is underlined and quotation marks, that is like copying, and you're going to need to paste that somewhere into the document. And you definitely could use keyboard shortcuts on the exam, and you can also use mouse, right clicking with your mouse and whatnot. We've already discussed that you can mark each task to indicate its status, whether review or complete. It tells you that when you go to a new task or project, the exam agent saves your changes. And again, all of this stuff really have already covered. But again, the exam summary, when you click that exam summary, it'll show you a list of all of the tasks and how you mark them, either mark as complete or mark for a review. And then just some general tips that's on here at the bottom. And as a teacher who has actually been able to proctor exams and see what the exams are like and what students do or do not do, I think this is very important. First of all, they tell you to accept all default settings unless otherwise specified in the instructions. So don't change anything that you are not told to change. Next, they tell you that the exam calculates your score based upon the final changes you make to the files and application settings. And they tell you that you may use any valid method to complete the task. So if they tell you to bold something, it shouldn't matter if you click the bold button or if you use the keyboard shortcut. Here we've already talked about if you are instructed to enter specific text, you can click on it, and that's like copying. If they tell you to do something that requires a change in the dialog box, you need to close the dialog box before you try to move on to the next task. Now this one is extremely important. They tell you that during the exam the files are password protected and that the following commands are disabled and not necessary to use to complete the exam. And this first one is extremely important, help. Now, when you take the exam, the help menu in either Excel or Word or PowerPoint, whatever it is that you're taking, those help menus are disabled. However, if you come back up here on the exam and look at the exam interface on the project file, up here where it says, tell me what you want to do, that is not disabled. Again, that is not disabled. You can use this. Now, it's kind of like Google. You got to put in the right terms of what it is that you're trying to do. But I do want to stress to you that you do not have the time on this exam to use this for 35 tasks. So if you get 35 tasks, you're not going to have enough time to use this 35 times. But in a pinch, you can put in a couple of keywords that you pull in from the directions, and that will help you to answer some, correctly complete some tasks. So help is disabled, but tell me what you want to do is not. Also disabled is share and encrypt with password, and then new and open are also disabled. And that is important to note because nothing that you are asked to do will involve you clicking new or open. New or open, those are both going to be disabled. So if they ask you to insert something from another file, they don't mean open, copy, and paste like what you would normally think. You have to use the method that you should have learned in the class. Because again, new and open are both disabled. And we've already talked about changing the height of the exam panel areas. And we've already mentioned that the exam saves the file. When you move to the next task or project, it saves it automatically. So you don't even necessarily have to go into and hit the save button or anything of that nature. Now, they give you some more tips based upon whatever exam you're actually taking. So make sure that you look at these, and when you actually sign in to take the exam, you'll see the tips that are related to the specific exam that you are taking. So that is it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, please ask your teacher and make sure that you are prepared when you go in to take your exam.